My name is Ben Burgis. I'm the author of a recently released book called Give Them an Argument, Logic for the Left. In that book, I dissect a lot of arguments made by one Ben Shapiro. In fact, he makes it onto the cover of the book. And in both that book and many other places, like videos that I've done here on Zero Books, stuff that I've done on my own YouTube channel where I do daily doses of logic and other things, and podcast appearances, a segment that I do every week on the Michael Brooks show called The Debunk. I have spent a lot of time talking about the logical fallacies that I think Ben Shapiro very often commits, and what's wrong with both his conclusions and the arguments that he gives for them. This last week, I was on Ralph Nader's podcast, the Ralph Nader Radio Hour, and Ralph made what I thought was an excellent suggestion.
34-year-old Harvard Law grad, fast-talking right-winger Ben Shapiro, who thinks he can argue everybody into oblivion on a stage in front of an audience. Would you debate Ben Shapiro?
I would absolutely debate Ben Shapiro. In fact, he was so hot on it, he brought it up again a little bit later in the program.
I mean, when is this guy going to get his comeuppance by people like you who can nail him to the wall, invite him to Rutgers, and dispatch him on the stage with your pure logic, reason, and ability to demolish? Can you have the student forum invite him to Rutgers? This will be a showdown in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
So, how about it, Mr. Shapiro? Because of course, I would debate you. I've, again, spent a lot of time in various forums talking about a lot of what's wrong with your arguments. So the real question is, would you debate me? Now, you might think that no, there's no reason you would do this. Why should you? Who am I? But here are some things to think about. You spend a lot of time debating 19-year-olds. Or 22-year-olds, for example. In a New York Times profile on you, which I hope we can agree was kind of embarrassing and how gushing it was, called The Cool Kids Philosopher, you were referred to as the destroyer of weak arguments, and yet the only supposedly weak argument you supposedly destroyed in the course of anything that was mentioned in that article was in a Q&A with a 22-year-old who challenged your position on trans issues. In response, you said, how old are you? She said, 22. You said, well, could you just identify as being 60? And then when she was momentarily flustered by this, you kind of bulldozed over her and started talking about why, she was wrong to think this, instead of, I don't know, giving her time to collect her thoughts, maybe explore some possible disanalogies between gender identity and age, such as the fact that trans people very often say that they have always known they were the gender that doesn't line up with their chromosomes, whereas it's not even clear what it would mean to say that you'd always known you were 60. This is the sort of thing that gives a lot of your critics on the left the understandable impression that you're not really very interested in arguing against the best version of ideas that you disagree with. You're interested in knocking down uncertain, untrained interlocutors who haven't really done this very much before, aren't quite sure how best even to phrase things, and you can just kind of talk over them in Q&As, so then your YouTube channel can clip it up and make it Ben Shapiro destroys another leftist snowflake on college campus. Like I said, understandably, a lot of people are going to have that impression, but charitably, let's say that's not true. Let's say that you would love to actually spar on any of these issues, any of the ones I just mentioned. You can pick the topic or combination of topics, from abortion rights to capitalism, from trans issues to Israel-Palestine. You pick, right? Any of these topics on which I've criticized you in the past, that, it could be that you would love to have a really challenging exchange with somebody who knew what they were talking about and wasn't just a flustered, first-time questioner who was still an undergrad. Let's say that's true. You would absolutely love to have a conversation with somebody who is a little bit more on that level. Well, I teach logic for a living, so on this whole question of destroying weak arguments, I'm a philosophy professor. I specialized in logic for my dissertation, issues about logical paradoxes. I've taught both formal, symbolic logic, both beginning and advanced, as well as informal logic classes, the kind of class where you learn about logical fallacies on multiple occasions. I have written a book in which I spend a lot of time talking about logical fallacies, how to make good arguments, etc. And I am exactly the enemy that you often rail against, or a representative of that enemy. I am a college instructor who is a Marxist and who believes the contrary views to you, to the ones that you believe, on every single issue that I just rattled off. Now, if it's your position that people like me are unfairly indoctrinating impressionable youth in our terrible subversive opinions, and that the reason that you end up spending all of your time arguing with 19-year-olds is because those are the only opponents that are present to you, then you should leap at this opportunity.
Thanks for watching this Zero Books video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to this channel and click on the notifications bell so that you'll be alerted whenever we release a new video. You should also consider supporting us on Patreon. Our patrons get access to our Inside Zero Books podcast every week and can get access to the Zero Books Book Club and help us to continue making online content from the left.